Hello everyone. In today's video, we will see what can a distant pass pawn do for us, how we can win because of having a distant pass pawn. Now, let's see this example in this position. Let's compare the pawns that black and white have. Black has 3 pawns, 2 on the king side and 1 on the queen side. Well, we have 1 pawn on the king side and 2 pawns on the queen side. The kings are both on the king side. Now, what does this mean? This means that if we are able to create a pass pawn on the queen side, then black cannot just let this queen side pass pawn just go and promote. Black will have to leave the pawns on the king side, go to the other side of the chessboard and capture our pawn, which is going to allow us to have enough time to capture the pawns on the king side and promote our pawn and win. Now, let's see. But there are some things that we should take care about. For example, here, to create a pass pawn, what's the best way to go? Now, the best way is to push the candidate pawn first. Candidate pawn is the pawn that has no black pawns in the same file. For example, here the b pawn is our candidate pawn. We push that one first. If we have pushed the a3 pawn, you might say it's going to be faster, because if I push the b pawn first, that's one move, that's 2 moves, and on the 3rd move I will be able to trade the pawns and create a pass pawn. Right, now if we go back, so you might say that if we start with a3, on the 2nd move already we will be able to trade pawns and create a pass pawn. But it's not so, because if we push the a pawn first, what can black play? Black can push the pawn and with just 1 pawn block both of the pawns that we have. Now on the other side of the chessboard we can do nothing on the queen side, while on the king side our opponent has an extra pawn and is going to be able to use it and win the game. How so? For example, here it's white's turn, of course. So being blocked on the queen side, my pawns don't move safely. For example, moving the pawn to b3, black is simply going to capture. Moving the pawn to b4, trying to avoid capture, doesn't help as well, because black is going to be able to capture en passant. Let's not forget about that. And black will promote way faster than our a pawn. Now, going back, what else to play for white here in this position? White is simply going to have to wait with the king, and even if we reach a position that usually would be a stalemate here in this pawn endgame, let's try, even if black doesn't try to capture our pawn on let's see, on h3, and just reach the position that usually, if there are no other pawns on the chessboard, this would be a stalemate, right? But even this is very bad for us, because now we do have a move to do with the b pawn. Either push the b pawn once or twice, and in both cases it's going to be captured. And not only it's not a stalemate, but it's just checkmate in 2 moves here. When black promotes, it's straight away checkmate. Now, going back, we said that then we're not going to push other pawns, but we're going to push the candidate pass pawn, the pawn that has no other black pawns on the same file, to create our pass pawn. Now, what should black play here? Black can do nothing but wait, and with the king, no other moves to do, because pushing the a pawn, okay, we just capture and again try to promote. It's going to be very similar. Now, we said we need to move the pawn, the a pawn, to a3, of course not to a4, because we will be blocking our own pawns, right? So pawn to a3. What should black play here? Now let's see. If black decides to stay with the pawns, then we can simply push our pawn, and now we have created a distant pass pawn. And let's say black decides to stay with the pawns on the king side, not leave them. But there will be a time that black won't be able to do this, because let's remember that each pass pawn has a square, and the square of this pass pawn, this white pass pawn, when we push it, is going to be here. Let's see, we draw a diagonal towards the last rank in the direction of our opponent's king, and we complete drawing a square with our pawn. Now, If the black king is inside the square, the black king can catch up with our pawn and capture it, and we won't be able to promote safely. But if in this position, what should black play? Black should either get out of the square of the passed pawn, which is going to mean that we can safely and easily just promote our b pawn, or the black king is going to move in the direction of our passed pawn to try to capture it and stop it, which is going to allow us to capture the pawns on the king side, both of the pawns on the king side. Now, let's say we capture. My advice is this. Now, there might be a lot of calculations. Let's say probably if I push and black moves in that direction, and if I push again, black captures, probably we're gonna win, or maybe it's gonna be a draw. But if I don't want to complicate things, the idea is this. I don't need to push this pawn anymore to make the black king move in that direction, because already black needs to waste time and move twice to capture our pawn. Why should I waste moves and allow black to get closer and capture my pawn, when in this time I can just capture the king side pawns? You know, I don't even want to calculate what's going to happen if I push and black gets closer, if black is going to be able to come back and defend. I don't even want to do that, because just by default I know that I'll be just wasting time if I do that. Why do that? And what else black should do, if black doesn't move in that direction to capture and moves back in the king side pawn's directions, then it's not going to be good for black. Anyways, here it's white's turn. We said we don't want to push the pawn and waste time. We just want to capture the black pawns as fast as possible, because in this time black can do nothing but move in the direction of our passed pawn and capture it, and we will have enough time to capture the king side pawns and win this game. Now, let's say the black king is going to try to get to the here promotion square or g8 to try to stop us from promoting. Now, what we need to do is to stop that, because if we're not careful, then black will be able to end this game in a stalemate again or a draw. Let's see. Now, we should of course move away our king, and black is still trying to get to the corner here. Now, if we're not careful and we allow that, the game will end in a draw. Let's see an example. If I'm just pushing my pawn and black is moving to the corner here, that's going to be a draw. Even if I take the opposition, it doesn't matter. On the edges of the chessboard, we should be extremely careful, because these end games, especially with the pawns, almost always exceptions and end in a draw when the black king can defend. And here this is going to be a stalemate. For example, if we were not on the edge of the chessboard, just one file to the side, just on the g file, our pawn, the black king was going to have a move and we were going to be able to win this. But just being on the edge of the chessboard, this is not going to help us at all, and we're going to end the game in a draw. So let's go back. If we go back and we see here this position, we understand that we shouldn't just push the pawn, but our aim should be stopping the black king from moving to the corner, and we should do that with our king. The king are the most important pieces in endgames, especially pawn endgames. They do a lot of work, and they are the ones that defend our passed pawns. They're the ones that help our passed pawns promote. They're the ones that capture opponents' pawns. So we should make sure that we use our king in the best way possible, and to win our end games. And here of course we can simply promote without any resistance from black, and we will be able to win the game. Now, to sum up, we can say different important things in this end game. Number one, having a distant passed pawn is going to help us win our pawn end games. Number two, to create a passed pawn, we need to make sure that on the side that we have a majority, we should push the candidate pawn first, the one pawn that doesn't have a black pawn in front of it, or an opponent's pawn in front of it. So in this case, the b pawn, even if it's going to cost us an extra turn, that's what we need to do. Otherwise, our pawns might end up being blocked, and it's like we're going to have a pawn less on the other side of the chessboard and even lose the game. Now, other than that, we need to remember that if the the pass pawn that we're going to have is going to be one of the on one of the edges of the chessboard. We need to be very careful not for this endgame not to end in a draw. With our king, we should stop our opponent's king from getting to the corner from the promotion square or close to the corner of the promotion square, and promote without black trying to stop us.